Share my screen.
Yeah, so just so everyone knows, we're recording the meeting and we're going to post it to Facebook later, or YouTube. So if you miss anything, like feel free to go back and watch the recording later.
Yeah, can you guys see my screen, like the Unity screen? Yes, no, I'm sorry, I can't see if people.
Yeah, we can see.
Yes,
Okay.
we can see.
Okay, cool. So when you have like your empty Unity screen, what you want to do is you want to go to Assets, Import Package, Custom Package, and then from here, you can just click on whatever this is, open. Yeah, it'll say it's preparing. I'm just not going to import it because it says all the assets are in my project already, but if they aren't, there should be just like this long list of things. On the bottom left, there should be an all button. Click the all button and then click OK. And that should import all your assets. All right. So is that working for everybody? Like, do we have any problems so far, like with that kind of thing? I would prefer if you guys like vocalize it, because I can't see messages right now, or else like, you know, the other officers are going to have to take those questions. But yeah,
is this a 2D project?
Yes, this is a 2D project.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, this is just like the basics of tile mapping. There are definitely ways you can implement them in 3D. We're just doing 2D. Sorry, yeah, 2D for now. Any other questions? Is everyone else good?
Athena, how do you want people to like ask questions during this?
So if it's like something that is, if you guys like are confused about something that I'm saying like at the moment, then like please just like interrupt me. Like either like raise your hand, or yeah, what Christian said is correct as well, like leading with @ in the chat. Or you can maybe like ask in the chat and one of the other officers could answer. If it's like a problem with like Unity, or like something's like really not working and you feel like you're falling behind on the tutorial, well, you can like tell me, like say, oh, you're going a little so fast, like you're going a little too fast. But if you're like really falling behind, in the Discord, there is a tutorials sort of like category, and there's like questions channel. You can ask there, you can join a breakout room and then like ping one of the officers if like you really can't get stuff to work. So yeah, and so the officers in the chat right now, like Evan, Jarrett, and Christian are in the chat. So yeah, they'd be able to help. I believe Emily is like recording and following along with the tutorial, so she might not be able to do this time. But yeah, so like that's how you can ask questions. Is that clear for everybody? Yes. And Christian, I'm so cool because I'm amazing. I'm incredible. Yes. All right. Cool. So
okay, yeah, it's taking a long time to load for me. So
like Unity opening up?
Yeah.
Okay. Do people like still need time for that? Yeah, you know, when you open Unity, it's always a struggle.
Athena, how can you verify that the like package imported?
When if the package imported, then in your scene, what you should see is a folder called proto. That should contain a proto scene. I don't know why this is outside, but there should be a sprites and a tiles folder.
So that's under assets, correct?
Yes, all of this is under assets. It should be like a separate asset folder.
There's an asset. I see an asset folder in my assets folder.
Yes.
Which has a proto scene, just not in the scenes folder.
There's no scenes folder. It's split into proto and tutorial because they're essentially operating autonomously, so I don't want them to like be conflated with each other like at all. Yeah. Essentially, the proto scene is like for you guys to look at and reference, but the tutorial scene is what we're actually going to be working in, if that makes sense. Yeah, I'll give it until like 6:11, I guess, for Unity to open up, and then I'll probably start. But yeah, so you should see a proto folder, a tutorial folder, and then they should contain sprites, tiles, and a scene each.
These tiles don't look familiar at all.
Yeah, so for those who know, I kind of just took these tiles from the Ludum Dare Metroidvania that I made. The player controller is not one that I wrote, so if it gets janky, I'm like sorry about it. I just took it offline. I didn't really want to write another one, solely for the purpose of this project. So yeah, and for those who are new to Unity, I'll also like be going through and explaining like everything here as well, like as we start. So yeah, once it hits 611.
To clarify in the chat, the thing that's talking about the difference between Unity Hub and Unity Editor. Unity Hub is basically like a way for you to organize all of your different Unity downloads that you have. So Unity updates like constantly, and it's really like annoying for you to have to deal with getting a different version. So they then, after people like complained about this, they created Unity Hub, which kind of handles all of your different ones. So some of your projects might be like in a different Unity version than others. So all of that gets handled by Unity Hub. And Unity Hub also makes it really easy to download new versions. So that's just like, that's the difference.
Oh,
Think of it as,
also,
like,
are we working in the proto scene or the
No, we're
tutorial
working in the
scene?
tutorial folder, tutorial scene.
Okay, dope.
I'll probably be like showcasing some things I'm talking about in the proto scene, but it's for all purposes, you guys will not be working in it. Yeah.
Sorry, I joined a little late. Where did we get this project from? Sorry.
The package was put in announcements.
On Discord.
Okay.
On Discord, yeah. It should be called Tilemap _tutorial, a Unity package. Yeah. And then you would import it by going to assets and then import package, custom package, and then selecting the thing that you downloaded.
Thank you.
Yeah, and to like add on a slightly to like Evan's explanation about Unity Hub versus Unity, think of it as kind of like Unity Hub is a Google Drive, and then Unity itself is kind of like the Google Docs within the unit, you know, like the drive. The drive contains like all of your documents, but it's not the actual executable. Okay, cool. So I'm going to start for all the Unity newbies here, because I'm sure there are a lot, by just going through like what the fuck is going on my screen. Like what the fuck is all this shit? Okay, so we're gonna be talking just a little bit about all of these windows. This is my setup. Your setup could be different. You could set it up the same way. If you want to drag things around, all you have to do is you see this little tab, you can just drag it out. You can put it somewhere. Like I could go like that, and now the scene is next to the, you know, like these two tabs. So you can just like drag them around and see like what best fits how you want to do them. On the edge, once you see this double arrow, you can just drag to resize. So like something like this. Yeah, so the main things that are important here is we have game view. So that is this thing. And then we have scene view. So scene view is what you work in. So if I'm going to be dragging a new asset in, like let's say I want there to be a brick in my scene. It'll show up in scene view. It's not showing up right now. I don't want to debug that, but if whatever you're doing, it'll like you'll be editing it in scene view. Okay, and then when you press play up here, that is when you switch over to game view. And so whatever you put into scene view will essentially run and execute in your game view over here. I have set my dimensions over here to 1920 by 1080. That is just standard sort of like computer screen size. So, you know, that's what I set it to. You can set it to free aspect, which means when you resize this screen, this area kind of resizes with, you know, like how you drag your game view. And I also have it set to maximize on play. So what that means is, if Zoom will cooperate, if I press play, this game scene over here on the left will blow up to fit the entire screen. If any minute now. Yes, there we go. So it's like something like that. I really need to move this. Hold on. Okay. Cool. So that's that. What we have over here is called the hierarchy. Do we have a lot of questions? Okay, sorry. Over here is called the hierarchy. So what this shows is it shows your scene. So right now I'm looking at the tutorial scene. It shows the main camera, which is what shows you like everything that's happening in the game view. If I deleted the main camera, it'll say, you know, there's no cameras rendering. It can't show anything in the game because there's no camera existing to, you know, show you things. And then we have the player. So that's all that exists right now. Over here in the bottom left, we have your projects. So this shows everything that exists within your project. So currently right now, this is your imported package, this assets folder. And so this is where you'll find everything. You know, you can go through all the folders, and here it'll show you like where it is. So like the branch path that you're going down. It'll show you all the sprites that you're looking at. You know, like tiles, whatever, prefabs, all that sort of stuff. It'll show you scripts, everything like that. And the final important thing is over here on the right, you have something called the inspector. So what that is when you click on an object, either in the hierarchy or you click on it in the scene, something will show up on the right. And this essentially tells you all the information about said object, if that makes sense. So if I click on the player, I see that the player is at position 0, 0. Scale, it has a sprite that is this sprite right here. It has a character controller that allows you to move. And then it has these things, these colliders and rigid bodies that I will go into a little bit later. Let me check to see my notes if I'm missing. So yeah, so like that's the basics of this, you know, like Unity view. These are the main things I would say you would need in every single project that you work in. So yes. For the how do you create a player? I have already created the player for you. What you want to do, that's like another tutorial that we can talk about later, creating game objects. So it's unimportant now. I think you can go to a beginner tutorial that they're holding on Wednesday if you want to know the intricacies of creating objects in scene, but I will not be going to that today. Okay. Yeah, so that's like the basics of the Unity program. Does anybody have any questions about that so far? Going once? Going twice?
Nina, I don't see a player in my project.
Okay, so did you click on the tutorial scene?
No.
Okay, yes, sorry, my bad. I forgot to clarify. To see all of this that I'm talking about, please click on the scene that you want to be in.
Okay, yeah, that works.
Okay, awesome. Okay, yeah, so yeah, for everybody who can't see it, please click on the scene. So this will be the little Unity logo and it should say tutorial. Okay, any other questions? Going once, twice? Cool, moving on. So next, before we can start talking about Tilemaps, we have to start talking about the things that we're putting in Tilemaps. So in this case, these would be called sprites. So for this, you can navigate over to your, what did I do? Okay, for this, you can navigate over to the sprites folder under tutorial, and you'll see all of these sprites over here. So what these are is essentially, these are just things I've imported from another application. You guys don't have to worry about that. But they are essentially images of a specified dimension, and Unity will, like treat them as sprites. You'll see like what the texture type, it'll tell you that it's a sprite up here, if it is a sprite. And so this is the default setting that Unity imports them on. Right now, this is not the setting that we want. These are not the settings that we want. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is pixels per unit. So what pixels per unit is essentially, if you see down here in the tile palette, you see how it's split into grids. Essentially, right now, I have this pixels per unit set to 100. So it means every single one of these grids, yeah.
How do you get the tile palette?
Oh, shoot, that is a very good question. To open up the tile palette, my bad. Please go to Window. It'll be 2D and then Tile Palette. Yes, my bad. This is just for the purposes of my explanation. We won't be going into tile palettes until later. Yeah, you guys are good. If you ever don't see something, like you're like, oh shoot, why am I missing the scene window? Just go to window and you should be able to find it somewhere here. Yeah. Okay, so going back to my explanation, pixels per unit is just saying right now it's set to 100. So it's saying that this square itself is 100 by 100, if that makes sense. 1 unit would be 100 pixels. So 1 unity unit, 100, pixels. However, this currently, if you open up the Sprite Editor, you'll see that the width is 64 pixels and the height is 64 pixels. So if the width and height is 64 pixels, but then we're like, oh no, wait, we want it to be fit to 100 pixels per unit, it's going to create some like weird sizing issues. For example, if I like drag this in here, it should look like kind of tiny, even though it's 64 by 64 pixels and theoretically should fit within, this thing. And that's not what we want. So to change that, all you have to do is you just have to change the size to 64. So now that's saying that, okay, 1 unity unit is equivalent to 64 pixels. And so one of these squares will perfectly fit one of my sprites. Does that make sense before?
Can we clarify? So is it 64 by 64 or is it 64 pixels total? So like
64 by 64. My bad. 64 by 64. Yeah.
I was like, that doesn't look like 8.
Sorry, my bad. 64 by 64. Yes. And so the second thing that we want to look at for this is compression. So 64 by 64 pixels is very small when your screen is 1920 by 1080. So we don't have to really compress anything. So we'll set the compression to none. Compression essentially is a way for Unity to save space on the images that you're using. It'll do some complicated math behind the scenes, and it'll like essentially guess colors that you're using. We don't want any of that because our sprites are so small that we don't need any of that. Obviously, change them depending on the sprites that you're using in later projects, but for right now, we're setting to none. And then we're going to click apply. Okay, and so right now you should see that everything down here changed. So now it's saying all the normal stuff, 64 by 64, all that stuff. I'm going to delete this also.
Real quickly, Athena.
Yes.
So just to overview, all you did was you clicked on that sprite and then you changed the pixels per unit to 64 and you changed the compression to none. Did you do anything else?
No, I did not do anything else. I apologize. It was a very long-winded explanation for 2 button changes, but I felt like it was necessary for you guys to know why I was going around changing random ass numbers and compression rates and like that.
When I click on the tile, I don't get any of that stuff in the inspector. I get like this grid selection and like
click on the sprite itself in the project as opposed to the sprite on the grid.
Yes.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. Okay. So that's the first thing that we're going to go into. The second thing is we're going to go into is just like talking a little bit about like how you want to edit your sprites. So let's say I have my player here, and I want to resize my player. Something that you don't want to do really, like ever, I would say there's very few cases, is up here you have like these different like scaling tools, so you can make them larger, you can drag them around. You don't ever want to just like find your object and just like scale them up or down. The reason that this is if you look over here at your transform, currently it looks really nice, okay? It's zeroed out at positions. The scale is like a pretty nice decimal. The Z position is not changed. But once you like pull out this tool, you start scaling it up and down, the numbers go like crazy. They go crazy. Like it's just a very unreliable way of putting things into your scene. So don't do that.
What's a transform, Athena?
Oh, sorry, my bad. Transform is essentially manipulating a shape or an object in your scene and making it larger, smaller, like squeeze it in so it's like half the like width, that sort of thing. It's just changing the dimensions of your object.
And or its position and space as well.
Yes. Yes, thank you, Evan. But yeah, don't do that. So yeah, that is just my word of caution for you guys. Yeah, and then, okay. So does that make sense to everybody, like what I'm doing with all of these sprites and like everything like that?
Quick question.
Yes.
So, like for arrow tile and brickstone and all, these are all square textures.
Yes.
So we can set pixels per unit to be 64 or whatever the resolution is.
Yes.
For the ones which are like the chain flame one, it's longer. It's not square.
Right.
So what would be like the pixels per unit for that?
You still wanted to set it to 64 pixels per unit, because I don't know why the dimensions are wrong, but this should be 64 by whatever 3 times 64 is. So it should be a 1:3 ratio, if that makes sense. And setting the pixels per unit to 64 still ensures that it maintains that 1:3 ratio relative to your other shapes. Does that kind of make sense?
The unit that it's talking about when it says pixels per unit is one of those squares on the grid.
Yeah.
So if it takes up multiple squares, that's like that's how you figure out what you're supposed to do.
Cool, thanks.
Yes. Okay, so yeah, if that all makes sense, like so far, just go through and in your tutorial sprites folder, click and then control click or shift click on all the items except for, on all the items. And you'll see over here in your inspector, it should say 6 textures, and then they should all show their, like settings. Set the pixels per unit for all of them to 64, and then set the compression for all of them to none. And then click apply. Oh, something else is that these settings will not stay until you click apply. So that's something to note as well. Okay, so moving on, we're going to actually get into the tile palette, like finally. So what we're going to do is here where it says Proto, you want to click on it and then you want to click create new palette. All right, and then I'm just going to name this, you can name it whatever you want. You want the grid to be rectangle, you want the cell size to be automatic, and then click create. Yeah, it doesn't really matter what folder it's in. And you'll know you're successful is if you see like a blue square and it has the name of whatever palette you chose. Yes.
Wait, how'd you get that again?
Yeah, so when you're on your tile palette, click on the name of whatever tile palette you are on currently, and then click create new palette.
And what size did you say?
Sorry?
What size did you say?
Oh, the cell size? Did you?
Yeah.
Just leave it as automatic.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So yes, it'll currently be empty until we drag something in. Let me check my notes real quick. Yes. Okay. So first, we're just gonna start with.
Wait, Athena.
Yeah.
Where, like, what file location should we save the new tile palette into?
It doesn't really matter.
Okay.
Yeah. It doesn't really matter. Just for the purposes of this tutorial, it doesn't really matter. Later when you're doing new projects, it might matter a little bit more, but for right now it doesn't.
Like, so it doesn't need to be in the same folder as the as the sprites or anything like that.
No, you can drag it outside if you want. It's fine. Yeah.
Huh?
Sorry. Is that a question? Okay.
Sorry, it wasn't me.
No, it's all good. It's all good. Okay, so just to start, we're going to just work with the arrow tile right now. So your arrow should be set to 64 pixels per unit, no compression, and then just drag and drop it in. And then click save. And you'll know that it works when, well, A, it's like lined up properly, and B, it'll create a new asset in your whatever folder you're working in without a little arrow next to it. And clicking on it, you should see that, it says arrow tile, like there should be and then like it has a sprite, collider type, that sort of stuff. Yeah, so that's how you know it works. And now we're going to be going into a little bit of all of these different tools. And before we can do that, go to the hierarchy, and this is where I'm showing you how to create a tile map. click plus and the little plus sign, click on 2D object, and then click on Tilemap. And that should create something that's called a grid with a little arrow next to it. You want to click on the arrow, and then you'll see your tile map. And then when you click on your tile map, you should see your scene view suddenly have like all these grids on it that kind of match your grid in your tile palette. Okay. So
wait, could you say again how to make the tile map?
Yeah, for sure. So what you're going to do is you're going to go click on the little plus sign in your hierarchy. Sorry, I saw somebody mention that. You're going to click on 2D object, and then you're going to click on tile map. Just the standard tile map. Don't worry about the other kinds. Yeah.
Once you've done that, it should create a grid object with the tile map child. Is that correct?
Yes, that is correct. That is correct. Yes, exactly. Okay. So yes, and then you want to click on your tile map itself. You want to see all the grids show up in your scene view, and that's how you know you're in the correct drawing portion. And now we're going to be essentially like going into a few of the tools that exist in the tile palette. So first, to select the sprite that you want to work with, that you want to paint onto your grid, you just have to click on it. Just click on it. You'll see that your little brush item should be activated. And then when you hover over your scene, you should see like whatever sprite you have selected. And so just to draw, you can just click and then just keep on clicking, you know, like something like that. So I can just go like that. All right. And so
cool.
Yeah, right. And so you should just see a bunch of arrows on your screen now. And then now you can move a selection by using this like 4-sided arrow, I guess, tool. You can hover over any, you know, item, and then you should, oh, never mind. First you want to select an area of the grid using the little mouse button. So it should be highlighted in orange and then fade to like red when it's selected. If you see it, and then you want to move over to the move selection with active brush. And then now you can move around the whole chunk or whatever you selected. So if I only select half.
Wait, oh, sorry, I have a question.
Yes.
So my active tile map, right now it just says nothing. I'm not able to make it to the tile map.
As in, like there's nothing that exists within the tile map, or like you just didn't create one?
So I dragged the arrow tile into the tile map region, like the tile palette. But then like underneath the like 7 different toolbars, it says like active tile map is selected to tile map, right? And then
yes,
mine says nothing.
Okay, so what you want to do is you just want to either like click on the down arrow and click it, or you want to go to your hierarchy. You want to click on grid, click on the little arrow next to grid, and then click on the tile map, and that should set it for you.
Where do you get the grid?
Oh, that's when you create a tile map. So that's the little plus arrow at the top. Then you click on 2D object and then tile map.
On your screen, it's probably on the left.
Okay, yeah,
it's somewhere in your hierarchy. Sorry, my scene view I recognize is like very different than other people's, but yeah, it's just within your hierarchy. You can create it like that. Okay. Any other questions? Okay, I'm gonna keep going.
One sec.
Yes.
Sorry.
No, it's all good.
How do you do the move selection with active brush thing again? Could you just show that once?
How do I do the sorry?
The move selection with active brush, that one.
Oh yeah, of course. So what you want to do is you want to click on the mouse first, like the mouse button, the mouse arrow, and then you want to click and drag over the selection that you want to move. So let's say I only want to move half of this. And then you'll click on the move selection with active brush tool, the 4-arrow tool, and then hover over your scene. You should have the selection that you previously selected highlighted, and you can just click and drag it around.
Makes sense. Thanks.
Yeah, of course. Any other questions on the tools I've talked about so far?
Yeah, I have a question about the proto and the tutorial thing. I mean, they look like they seem to have the same stuff in them. What is proto?
Proto it stands for prototype. You don't have to worry about that for now. Essentially, I'm just gonna, it's there if you get stuck on anything. So later on in this tutorial, if you get stuck, you're like, oh shoot, I didn't add this. What am I supposed to add? You can reference the proto scene for help on that. And also I might jump to it to just like show you guys examples of what I'm talking about. But for all purposes, you don't need to like worry about that at all, unless you're like running into trouble. So just, yeah.
So it's not something like generated by Unity or anything. It's
no. It's like something that I made.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
cool.
So let's say you want to erase like a portion of your tile map, but you don't want to do it individually by each tile. How would you do that?
So if you're on the brush tool, you should be able to just like right click and then, oh fuck. No, hello. That's not the brush tool. Right. You should be able to just right click. Hello. Is it shift click? Yeah, sorry, shift click and then just drag your mouse over wherever. As for like deleting, I believe like if you want to delete just like a large selection, I think you just, no, that's not it. I actually don't quite remember. Hold on. Yeah, I'll get back to you on that. I don't quite remember how to delete like a large section by selection.
It's all good.
But yes, I'll get back to you on that. Oh yes, no, I remember. I remember. This is the next tool that we're going to be using, which is the painting of filled blocks. So if you want to erase a large selection, you can click on that and then shift click and then drag until like the section is highlighted, and then it'll delete whatever, like large area. Yes. So yeah. That's the next tool.
Can you show that again? I missed it. Sorry.
Yeah. So click on the next tool, which is just looks like a white rectangle. And then you want to press the shift key, click, and then drag until the white borders surround whatever you want to delete, and then release. And that should delete whatever you selected.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. So something like that. Yes. So paint. This one is a little bit of a fun one. Essentially, whatever area you have selected, it will paint over all of it. So if I click here, or if I just like click and drag, it'll like paint that entire area. Yes. So this is like, essentially if you want to like fill in like huge rectangles with, this amount of stuff. It's like a fill tool, essentially. I believe you can, no, you cannot, never mind. I didn't say anything.
I'm getting flashbacks to all my days in Mario Maker.
Yeah, yeah, it's similar. Yeah. You don't need to worry about the next one. You're probably not really going to use it. And then erase is the same thing as shift clicking. It's the same thing as shift clicking on the brush. You can just go through and manually erase little bits of it. Yeah. And then fill. If you guys saw that, it'll like fill like whatever area you specified, starting from, I believe, like the 0 point that the tile map specifies. So you can just go ham on it. It's not as, in my opinion, not as good as the paint to filled box tool, which allows you to control stuff. But if I wanted to like just fill in like a specific area, like right here, I was like, oh, I didn't mean to delete like this section in the middle. I can go through the fill tool and it'll like automatically do that for you. So yeah, so those are all of the tools that exist within this like little, like tile palette editor. Do we have any questions? Yes.
I want to know what the one you didn't go over does.
God, that's a good question. Do I remember? I think like what that was is if you have like more than one tile on the screen. So I'll just do this really quickly.
It's like it selects your like current.
It selects your current, right? So like if I want
whatever you click on the screen, right?
Right, exactly.
It's like the color eyedropper and like
yes,
like
exactly. It's like a color eyedropper.
Yes.
Yes, exactly that. Yeah. So yeah, so let's say you have this arrow key and you're like, okay, well, like I drew an up arrow, but I want it to be like facing the left or the right or down. You don't have to go through and like draw like 7 billion different arrows. All you have to do is the hard bracket keys. Press on the right one if you want it to rotate to the right. Press on the left one if you want to rotate to the left. Yes. So
wow, I
then
actually
you can
did not know that. Wait,
yeah.
do that again.
Wait, can you
What
repeat
was
that?
it?
I didn't hear it.
Yeah, of course. So to rotate the tile that you're using, click on the left or the right hard bracket keys on your keyboard. So the ones next to the letter P, they should be.
Oh, wow.
Clicking on the right one will rotate it 90 degrees to the right. Clicking on the left one will rotate it 90 degrees to the left.
I can't do it. Yeah, it's not working for me.
It's not working.
It's the square bracket keys.
Yeah.
The square bracket keys?
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
It works now.
It's not working. Do you have the brush tool selected on your tile palette? Like, can you draw normally?
Yes. Ooh, that did something. Oh, okay.
Did it work?
Yeah, I got it.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yes. Any other questions?
With the bracket thing, I think like outside America, brackets are called like normal brackets or square brackets, and parentheses are normal brackets.
Okay.
And braces are curly brackets.
You know, even though I'm half linguistics major, this stuff eludes me. So sorry, but yes, whatever Starshan mentioned, the square brackets, was it? Yes, please use the square brackets. Okay. Yes. All right. And something else I'm just gonna like mention really quickly for fun. You probably won't ever have a reason to use this, but it's just in case something ever goes wrong in a project. There's also ways you can change the scale of the squares on the screen. So right now these are set to 1 by 1. But if I want to like fuck around, I can set it to 2. And so now each square is 2 by 1, and your sprite should be stretched accordingly. You know, you can also do this on the grid level, and you can just change the grid scale to 2, and it'll do the same thing.
Wait, so is there any difference between doing it on the grid and doing it on the tile map?
Doing it, well, it's because the grid is the parent of the tile map. You have multiple tile maps. You don't want to scale, you know, like using the grid, because it'll scale every single tile map that you have underneath, if that makes sense. Yes. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so that's just the basics of the tile palette. Next, we're going to go on to the more complicated sprites that you see here. So we have a window, and we have a chain flame. It's called chain flame, that are not perfectly 64 by 64 inches. So how would you put them into the scene is kind of the question. What you would do is something that you could do is you could just have the window as is, and you can drag it in as is, and it'll show up kind of like this. It's kind of janky. It doesn't really like fit normally. Like, you know, like it just looks really weird. So you don't want that. How you can delete things from your tile palette is you see the little edit button here. You want to click on it. It should be next to the name of your tile palette. You want to click on it, and then click on the erase button and just erase it. You can also shift click if you're on the brush button. Here is also where you can like paint within the tile palette, although I don't see you ever having really any reason to do that. But yeah, so that's how you edit the tile palette. That's how you delete things. So one way that you can fix having the window be at sort of the, you know, like the wrong place. Oh, and also another something else, if you saw what I just did, if you want to delete this tile palette from the tile, just from the tile palette, it won't go away in your sprites. It'll still be there. So if you want to make sure it's gone completely, you want to go to whatever sprite it is, right click on it, and then delete. Or tile, sorry, not sprite.
Yeah, make sure you don't delete your actual sprite, which is the one with the arrow next to it.
Yeah, the one with the actual sprite should have an arrow next to it. Okay, so one way that you can fix the window
The
problem,
eraser,
yes.
the eraser tool is not working when I'm trying to erase it from the tile set.
You want to press edit first. It won't erase unless you press edit.
Athena, is it correct to think that pressing the edit button lets you treat your tile map as if it were, or like your tile palette as if it were the map in the scene?
Yes, yes, that is correct. Yes. Once you press edit, you can do everything within the tile palette that you can do within the scene. Yes. Okay, so one way to fix the wrong window is here where you see pivot. You can set it to pivot at a certain point. So that's essentially saying it anchors. Currently it's anchoring at the center, but you can anchor it from the top left, from the top center, top right, so on and so forth. We'll just do top left just for the sake of things, and then apply. And then now when I drag the window in, it should line up still kind of weirdly, if you'll see it, if you see it. Hello. Here, it didn't go well. Essentially you can use the like pivot points like here to anchor it accordingly within your, like within the tiles that you use.
How come your tiles all just got tall?
Oh, this is because when we created the tile palette, we set I think it was like the grid sizing to automatic. So it will size itself accordingly to whatever tiles you give it. So like if I drag a torch in, it should resize, back to whatever it was. Yeah. Okay. So like this is like not how you want to really implement tiles into your scene. What you actually want to do is you want to slice up the tile. So how would you do that? You would click on it, and then here where it says sprite mode and all of this stuff, you want to set it from a single sprite to multiple sprites. So what this is telling Unity is that, oh, this one image contains multiple sprites that I'm using. You also want to make sure that the pixels per unit is set to 64 at this time, because that will really matter. And then you want to go into your sprite editor, click on sprite editor. Yes. And then it should open up this scene with like a blown up view of whatever you have. And then top left, you should see a slice button.
Wait, how do you open Sprite Editor?
Yeah, so when you click on your sprite in, like your assets folder, you want to go to your inspector, change the sprite mode to multiple, and then click on the sprite editor button. It should be like right underneath that group. Does that help?
Oh, okay, I see.
Okay. Yeah. You want to click on sprite editor. It should open up. In the top left, you should see slice. And then it should say, there's different types. So you want to have it slice by cell size. All right. And cell size is determined by, like the pixel size here. We have it set to 64 by 64. And take a look at what happens to the image when I click slice. You'll see now that there is now a white border around everything. And it cuts through like exactly in the middle. So like that's how you know that it worked. And then you want to click apply on the top right. All right. And now you should know that it worked if like something pops up in the bottom right that tells you the first sprite that you cut. Like it'll like highlight. You can like highlight the second one if you want. Another way that you can tell that it worked. I see a lot of questions. Give me 1 second. Another way that you can tell that it worked is if you go to your sprite.
Wait, Athena,
yes.
Can you go over it one more time, how to get into the sprite editor?
Yeah. So how to get to the sprite editor, you want to click on your sprite within your project folder. So it should be under tutorials, sprites, and it should be called window in this case. And then you want to go to your inspector once you click on it. You should see like just a bunch of import settings, whatever. And then where it says sprite mode, you want to set that to multiple. And then underneath that section of formatting, settings, you see a little sprite editor button and you want to click on that. Does that help? Okay.
Did everyone get it?
Did everyone get it? Okay.
I think we're good.
Okay, cool. Yeah, and then sprite editor, slice. You want to slice it by cell size. Make sure it's set to 64 by 64. Click, and you'll know that it worked when you see these white borders, and when you click on them, in the bottom right, you'll see the name of whatever sprite you imported, an underscore and then the number that it is. So this is the 0th one. This is the first one, etc., etc. Yes. Okay. Yeah, and then you want to click apply on the top right. And how you know that this works, like you can double confirm this, is when you click on the little arrow next to whatever sprite you just sliced, you should see it split into its top and bottom halves. And so now we have window 0 and window 1. You can compare this to the wrong window, which only has the full window sprite. And then you can, close that up and then just drag that into the scene. You don't have to drag each individual sprite underneath it. You can just drag you can just drag like the top one.
Did you mean drag into the tile palette?
Sorry, the tile palette, not the scene. My bad. Yeah. Yes. And so now you should have it split into the top section and the bottom section. And to draw these like together. Oh God. Okay, draw these together. You would click. Oh no, that's not it. How would you draw these together? I forgot. I will get back to you guys on that. I have slightly forgotten how to draw these together. So
Wait,
my bad.
I'm pretty sure you like select them both with the mouse thing, and then your paintbrush will work as them, right?
That's why I'm trying. I didn't really. Ah, yes. Never mind. You click and drag with your paintbrush tool, not your selection tool. So you want to click on the little paintbrush button. You want to click and drag until a blue rectangle envelops the entire window. And then now you should be able to draw the whole window into your scene. It'll overlap sometimes and it'll look hella jank when it does. But yes, that is how that works.
So is there any way to like actually work with 2x1 sprites as one single entity?
Yes, so that is the pivot points I was talking about. So here, let me see if I can set it. I didn't actually fiddle with this. Let's set it.
Might have to do a custom.
Yeah, I might have to do a custom. God, I don't want to work with dimensions right now. And actually, just this should work theoretically. Let me test this out real quick, and then I'll explain what I'm doing. Still no.
You need the pivot point to be like in the top middle. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Okay, wait, hold on. I was gonna delete that real quick. Here, I can
Like
just set it to
32
top.
pixels down from the top.
Yeah.
By the way, this is kind of a random thing.
Uh-huh.
When you delete a tile from the tile palette, it'll replace it with the pink square. Do not paint with the pink square because it like is buggy as all hell. Which happened with the Ludum Dare game. So.
Yeah, you don't want to do that. The pink square essentially is just a symbol of a deleted tile that doesn't exist anymore on the tile. Like you've deleted the tile like from your project, but you haven't deleted it from the tile palette. So the tile palette can't find it anymore, and it kind of just gives you an error like what's like I don't see anything, like why haven't you given me anything, etc. Yeah.
Side note, that also shows up like in non-tile palette related things. If you ever see an object that's that pink color, like something's been deleted or like something's wrong and you need to fix it.
Yeah. Yes. God, I forgot. It's set to automatic. So it does this.
I think I might have missed a step somewhere, but like I'm trying to do it to the chain flame one.
Okay.
And slice is grayed out. What could I have forgotten to do?
Slice is grayed out.
Did you set it to multiple? Like set the sprite mode to multiple instead of single.
One.
Okay.
That's what I forgot. Thank you.
Yes. Yes. Okay. I'm gonna fuck that one up. Okay. Yeah, so is everyone getting it so far? As for the question on like how to like just have it as a single entity, you just have to like fix the pivot point. I think it has to be custom and it has to be like negative 0.25 or something. I'm not really good with dimensions right now. But you want to set it to a custom pivot point where essentially the bottom left or the bottom right or the top left or the top right snap to the bottom left, bottom right, top right of a grid cell respectively, if that makes sense. And then you put them on top of each other, but they're not connected. Are you talking, if you're talking about the window, you don't need to like have them set separately. You can just drag the entire window sprite into the scene. Okay, I see Evan's answering, so I will just move on if nobody else has like any like pressing questions. Okay, no pressing questions. I will move on. Okay. Yeah, so now we're just going to move on to the intricacies of the tile map itself. So the tile map has like a bunch of these like tile map like settings, Tilemap Renderer. If I'm going too fast, also just like tell me to shut the fuck up and I will and answer whatever questions you guys have. But please like vocalize it. I can't like really check the chat that often. So what we have here is we have something that's animation frame rate. So if you ever want to animate tiles, this is where you'll set the frame rate. I'm not going to go into that. Just know that that exists if you want to animate tiles. We have the color. It is set to white by default. White is essentially saying there's no tint on my tiles, but I can change the color. I can change the color. Let's say I want to set it to bright red, and that will change the tint. So what color gets overlaid on top of your sprites respectively. So, you know, I said it's like a garish yellow, a garish red. And the more white it is, then like the more transparent it is. Does that make sense so far? So if it's white, then there's no tint. Think of it as like having a transparent tint. If it's black, it's completely opaque. So you can't see anything but the color of the tint. And then whatever other color just, you know, like tints it respectively. If you go more black then or darker, then less of the sprite will show up. If you go more white, then more of the sprite will show up.
Wait, where did you open this color menu?
Oh, just click on the color. You can just single click on the color.
Select tile map first, and then I should be in the inspector of the tile map.
My bad.
Also, if there's any like art people here who know about like RGB values, basically what this color thing does is it literally adds the RGB values onto the ones that already exist on your sprite, which is why since white is 0, 0, 0, it doesn't have any effect on your sprite. So if you get wonky colors, that's the reason why it's additive.
Yes.
I do not see the color thing.
Did you click on Tilemap, like the Tilemap object in your hierarchy? Yes.
Yes, I don't see, like where is it?
In your inspector. It should be in your inspector.
Is there a way to tint like specific parts? Like just the white parts of your tile map?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So that would, the way that would work is because, here, let me click on that real quick. If I just like drag it along the, if you see the square just on the top value, then that technically only adds to like the sort of like beige area, like only adds color to the beige area. That's purely because the arrow itself is red, right? So you adding red to red just makes more red. You're not going to get less red, or you're not going to get blue from that. As to just changing that specifically, like let's say you have a bunch of different colors, I don't think there's a way to do it just from this tile map portion, no. From there, that would be like, you would like put a shader on it, or you'd like go to the sprite itself and then add tints to it. That is a whole other tutorial that that that's another thing. Yeah.
Why would we use this? Like, how would this be used in a game to tint an entire tile map?
This
atmosphere.
So like one instance could be like, let's say you don't want to reveal what a tile is to a player until they walk close to it, if that makes sense. So this would involve like code and like scripting. But then you would say, oh, unless the player is in proximity, I want the tint of this tile to be completely black. So, it only shows up when the player like passes in front of it or something like that. So like that's like an instance of.
I thought this was for the entire tile map.
Huh?
I thought this was for the entire tile map.
You can have multiple tile maps.
You can have multiple
on the
tile
same
maps,
grid.
Oh, okay. Oh, that makes sense. Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Thanks.
Yes.
So you can animate the color?
Yes, you can animate the color through code. For those who are like a little bit more code centric, I'll like kind of explain. All of the things in Tilemap are, think of Tilemap as like kind of like a struct or a class or an object. And all of these are sort of like variables within that object or struct or class that you can modify by accessing them through code. So you can be like tilemap.color is equivalent to this when the player is not near it or something like that. Yes. The tile anchor is, works basically the same as the pivot points. So if I set it to 0, 0, you'll see that the tiles are anchored by their center. If I scroll in, you can scroll in with your middle mouse button as well. You'll see that the center of the tile is aligned with the like corners of the tile map instead of, like bottom left to bottom left. Yes, so that could be useful in some cases as well if you have like irregular tiles. So there's something like that for you. And as for Tilemap Renderer, you don't really need to worry about that right now. That's really if you want to work with like materials or chunks. Essentially, like.
I have a question. Like, how do? Sorry.
Yeah, no, go for it.
How do we fix the tile palette gridding? Like, if we dragged in a sprite and then it just like completely fucks over the original tile spacing.
If you delete it and then go to the proto tile and then back, it should fix. Let me know if it doesn't.
Do we have to delete the sprite, like the sprite?
Yes, delete the erroneous sprite as well.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and everyone is like, if ever anyone is like feeling like really behind and they're like, what the fuck is going on? You can just like ping one of the officers here in Discord. Mark just offered in the chat, and you guys can hop over to the questions channel in Discord to troubleshoot things. Yeah. Okay. Is everybody like good so far?
But do we need to delete the entire tile palette?
No. You don't need to delete the entire tile palette. Just whatever tile is like throwing off your grid.
Okay, because I deleted it and then I switched tile palettes and it's still like weird.
Describe weird. What's the problem?
So I dragged in the idle sprite inside, and then like all the grids became like way bigger. Like now that like each sprite is like super small inside each of the squares.
Okay. Yes, such is the problem of automatic.
Athena, is the idle sprite like much bigger than the others?
By 256, yeah.
Mm.
So the only other option I think is just dragging one of the original sprites that you have over whatever sprite. So like here, I'm dragging my arrow tile over the arrow tile. That should fix it. If it doesn't, switch over to another tile palette and then back again after you've deleted, obviously, the idle.
We have to like jump through some of these stupid hoops just because we have the automatic sizing on our tile map.
I apologize for setting it as that. It's just
okay,
in
yeah,
case,
I fixed it. Thank you.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Yeah, I apologize. It's just a little bit easier to explain things, and just in case like people didn't set all the sprites to like 64 pixels per unit, they can still follow along with the tutorial without being completely lost. So that's like why I set it as automatic. Essentially, the difference is just automatic will resize the grid depending on whatever tiles you give it, whereas manual will only ever have whatever grid size you specify.
So if you were to make it manual, Athena, would you recommend making it 64?
I would recommend making it based on whatever dimensions you're going for your game. You know, whether it be 16 by 16, 32 by 32. Essentially what base dimensions you're using for your game. A good rule of thumb is like whatever the size your character is probably a good size to set your tile map to, and your tiles too. Yeah. Okay. So moving on. Yes, we were talking about the tile map itself. Yes. Yeah, I was talking about the Tilemap Renderer. You guys don't need to worry about that. That's if you want to like load and unload specific portions of the tile map. So let's say like this tile map is like fucking huge. Like it's 1,000 by 1,000 pixels, and you have like a lot of stuff going on. But it's just sitting there unused because only a section of it you can see at a time because your camera is like this close and you can only see like the player. That's when you can like unload certain portions of the tile map to save on some memory and make sure the game can run smoother. But yeah, you don't have to worry about that for now. Yeah, now we're gonna move on to having multiple tile maps within your scene. Interesting stuff. So all all you would have to do is either with your tile map or grid selected in your hierarchy, click on the plus button, click on 2D object, and just create another tile map. I'll just say like tile map 2 or something like that. Doesn't really matter. And now you'll see that you can draw on it just the same. I'm just putting a fuck ton of torches everywhere like this. But you'll see that these exist on like separate tile maps. How you can see this is if you go to this like little box, when you click on the tile map object, you go to the inspector, there's like a little check mark next to the white cube. If you uncheck it, it'll make invisible all of the tiles that you set on that tile map. So you'll see that these exist on separate tile maps. So how this is interesting is, let's say I want a torch to appear in front of this arrow instead. You know, I can just draw a torch here, you know, like, yay, it's in front of that tile set. But you'll see that when I press play, you'll see it for a short second, that I'm pretty sure the torch will disappear behind the arrow when you press play. So it only shows up in scene view. It'll go away any second now if Unity will cooperate. You see how it has disappeared from the scene? Why that exists and
Athena,
why that's
what's happening when you press the play button? What does that button do?
It's not that the play button is doing anything. It's essentially the torch was never going to show up to begin with. It's just because you just drew it in, I'm pretty sure, that it like shows up within the scene view. But you see, like when I like try to do it now, it doesn't show up. So it's just a problem with like the tile map not updating like properly.
Right. What I mean is, like, if there's anyone here who doesn't know like how Unity works, when you press that play button, what does it do, Athena?
Oh, my bad. When you press the play button, think of it as Unity is going to start running the game. So you're working on the game here, you press play, Unity is going to start running like everything that you have. So in this case, the only thing that I have that's not a static object, so by static I mean like unmovable, will never change unless, you know, like you manipulate it in some way, is a player object. And so, which has like all of these stuff, has physics acting on it basically. So when I press play, Unity will start running everything and it'll recognize, oh, the player has physics, and it'll make the player fall. It essentially just starts running the game. Is that good, Evan? Yes, okay.
One more question.
Yeah.
I tried like putting the torches in front of stuff, it wouldn't like go in front of stuff. And then I like reordered the tile maps and it still won't go. Like,
yes.
How do I do the?
That is my next. That's the next thing I'm going to talk about. Yeah. So the reason why that is if you go to your second tile map, you want to set you want to look at the very bottom, and you'll see something that says additional settings, and you want to set the order in the layer to 1. Essentially, the higher the number of the order in layer, the closer to the foreground it will be. So 0 is going to be drawn first, and then 1, and then 2, and then so on and so forth. So now when I press play, the torch should now appear in front of the arrow. Yay, it appears in front of the arrow. Cool. Does that make sense so far?
How did you move it to the front?
Yeah, so you want to click on the tile map that you want to have closer to the foreground. In the inspector, you want to go to the very bottom, and when it says additional settings, you just want to change the order and layer from 0 to 1. Yes. And then if I have does that make sense? Did that work?
Yeah.
Okay. And if I want to have like another tile map that's like even closer to the foreground, I'll like create one, I'll set the order and layer to 2, and then 3, and then just to infinity, essentially. Okay. So hopefully that makes sense for people. Another way that you can do it is you can change the Z position. I don't recommend doing that. It really fucks with your game, especially if stuff depends on your camera. Don't do that. Just change the order in the layer. Okay. Now moving on is where we actually get into the fun stuff. So all of this, let me quickly draw like something underneath the player and then press play again. You'll see that the player just like falls right through them, which is not what we want. We want the player to walk on platforms, or else like, you know, like why would you have platforms, right? So this is where we go into adding collision. What this means is if you look at the player object, and if you guys don't see it, you guys can click on Gizmos, which should be at the top of your scene view, something that says Gizmos next to like a little camera button. And if you zoom in really closely, you'll see this like green sort of like pill kind of shape, circle kind of shape within the box. I downloaded this player from like a website, which is why it's a capsule collider and not a square collider. But essentially what these colliders are is it gives whatever object you have a border, and that border, once it comes into contact with another collider border, will do something. Does that make sense so far to people? You have borders that will connect with different borders and do certain things when they touch others' borders. And that's what a collider is. So I have this player collider, and I want to make sure that the player can stand on these platforms I've created. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my tile map, and I'm going to click add component. If you go to the look at the inspector, at the bottom of the inspector, it should say add component. And you want to search up Tilemap Collider 2D. You want to add that in. And then now, do you see how like all of these tiles have like a little border around them? Oh, I think I drew these in the wrong place. Hold on. Yeah. So you'll see that all of these tiles, if I zoom in real close, have like a little green border around them, if you guys can see that. And so now, when I press play, the player should be able to stand on things. It should be able to like, oh my God, I hate this player controller, holy shit. But yes, it should be able to stand on all of the platforms that you created. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. So that is like a naive way of implementing a tile map. But let's say you have like,
wait, hold on. Were you guys able to get that to work?
Yes. Were you guys able to get that?
I think I may have missed a step. Could you?
Yes, I can go over it again. So what you want to do, let me remove this real quick. is on the tile map that you want to make sure that the player can stand on, that you want to add colliders to. Click on it, scroll down in the inspector until you see add component at the bottom of that inspector. Click on add component and then search up Tilemap. And then you should want to click on Tilemap Collider 2D. And then now if you like zoom in really close on the tiles, you just see like a faint green border on all of them. So, you know, like this is how they look without the Tilemap Collider. This is how they look with the Tilemap Collider, without, with. And that's how you know. Yes. Is that making sense to everybody? Anybody else have questions? Okay, cool. So this is like a very naive way of implementing a tile map. Why I say this is, let's say, again, you have a tile map that is thousands upon thousands of, you know, tiles large. You have 10,000 tiles in that tile map. If every single one of those tiles has like a tiny little, like, you know, like collider on it.
Athena,
yes.
Sorry for interrupting, but Tyler wants to know if there's an attendance code.
Oh God, I forgot to make one. I'll make one after this and I'll set it so that it won't expire for 2 hours after this event. If you guys want the attendance points for it, I apologize for not setting it beforehand. I completely forgot. I apologize. But yes, I'll release it after.
What are attendance points for?
It's like an overall ACM thing. Essentially, if you get enough attendance points, ACM might give you a prize, like if they remember.
Right.
But yeah, it's like if you get like the most attendance points out of something. And yes, the code will be posted in Discord.
All right, cool.
If you can't,
okay, so like I don't give a shit about like the codes or prizes or whatever.
Yes.
But like, is there any other point to these other than prizes?
No.
Is it gonna be like you're gonna look at me
There
at the
really
end of the year and
isn't.
be like,
well,
you
you like
attend
you can
goddamn
you get
events.
like
We're not gonna like
you get like rank up if you like you can have like bragging rights, be like, I got this like rank.
I don't know if anyone pays attention to that.
No one pays attention.
A few years ago, Robert, who like used to be one of our officers, he got like more attendance points than anyone else, and then they gave him like stuff. I don't remember. He got like some kind of big thing. I think like a Google Home or something.
Nice.
Like
nice.
Google Home Mini, maybe something like
Didn't
that.
he have like 10 times the amount of the next person or something ridiculous?
Yeah, he had like a lot. So if you're like Robert and you go to every single ACM event, maybe you'll get a Google Home.
Yeah,
okay,
but
I only
it's
give a shit
kinda
about
like-
like 2 ACM subcommittees. So
Don't they used to use that as a head count? Didn't they used to use that as a head count for like room booking?
Yeah, I think it also helps ACM like figure out attendance at the events.
Oh, maybe
It's like an administrative thing that they want to turn it into something fun for you guys, even though it's just an administrative thing. So
oh, that's nice. Wait, I don't remember any of that stuff. So like, what website am I supposed to go to for this?
Sorry.
I believe it's like Google is UCLA ACM, and I think it's the first website that pops up. And I think you need to make an account unless they've changed it.
Yeah. If you have questions about this,
oh,
we can like
yeah,
discuss
you go
it.
to ACM and then
Yeah. Put it in the Discord and we can answer, because
Yeah, we
Athena
can
has like
answer-
limited time for her
Yes.
Oh, right.
tutorial.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right,
Okay.
then let's do that, I guess.
So, yeah. So back to my explanation. Having like every single tile have its own separate collider doesn't make a lot of sense when your map is very huge. Or for example, I have like these tiles, like these ones I have selected, or I can't select them, but essentially like these ones, I'll erase them and then put them back in. Like these ones here, they're never going to be touched by the player, right? The player will never ever interact with these tiles. So giving them each a separate collider just creates like a lot of memory issues. It takes up like a lot of space. So another way that you can implement these is going to add component. You want to search something up that says that's called a composite collider. Composite collider 2D, and then add that in. And in the inspector, that is, you want to add that in the inspector. And it should add something called a rigid body 2D and a composite collider 2D. Okay, and then once those are added in your Tilemap Collider 2D, you want to click used by composite, which means it's going to be used by the composite collider. And what that should do is, now if I look at, like my big grid here, you should see that the green bar only exists here. The green bar only exists like under, like around all of these tiles. It doesn't, create a separate collider for each of these tiles inside. It essentially created like one large, like collider for all of these shapes, or for this entire shape, my bad. And so that saves a lot of space, and that is also more efficient. So that is one way that you can use it.
Can you go over how to make the composite collider again?
Yes, of course. So again, what you'll do is you'll click on the tile map that already has the Tilemap Collider. You'll click on Add Component, and then you want to search up Composite Collider 2D. Click on that, and that should add a Rigid Body 2D and a Composite Collider 2D into your scene. And then you want to go to your Tilemap Collider. You want to click this is used by composite check mark. You want to make sure that's checked. And then you'll know that it worked if within your scene you see like the green like box that symbolizes a collider is now around your entire shape instead of like each individual small thing. Does that make sense for everybody? Yes. Okay, cool. Yeah, something cool that this does is, let's say I want to add a torch object. You'll see that it'll actually create a separate collider for the torch that it'll try to fit the dimensions of the torch as best as possible. So, like if you have like a simple triangle or like stuff like that, you don't have to create like a completely separate collider. Of course, if I have something like this, which, hold on, I need to cut this really quick. I'm just splitting my chain flame into 3 parts, which is the same process as splitting the window. I'm just doing that real quick just to show you guys something else I'm talking about. Okay, let's try this right there. Yeah, so, but like if I have a complex shape, like let's say this bowl of fire, and I want to add that in to my tile map, you'll see that like the borders, like it's not very accurate. It's not very good. It doesn't really like conform to the shape as much as we want. And when you play the game, it won't be realistic. The player will just bump against empty space. So at that point, you want to give the chain flame its own, like probably like these like more complicated objects, their own tile map, or something else that you want to do that I won't elaborate on because it's a little bit more complicated, but I'll tell you like the basics of how to do it. Is you want to click on your sprite. Once you set it to multiple, something called generate physics will appear. You want to uncheck that button. And then in your tile map, let's see where it is. I think that is it actually that you need. But yeah, so you want to set the generate physics to off, and that will allow you to create like separate colliders for that tile essentially. Yes. I won't go into the intricacies of that. Just know that it exists. You can probably Google it and it'll like just be the first result that comes up. How to create separate colliders for separate objects within a tile map. But yeah.
Can you just show how to get to the generate physics again, please?
Yes, of course. So you want to click on your sprite. And then you want to, there's like a little button that says generate physics. It's with the sprite mode, like all that sort of stuff. You just want to uncheck that button. Yeah.
And I have to do that before creating like the split tile map thing?
Yes. You want to do that before you create the tiles, so like before you drag it into the scene. I've already dragged it into the scene, so it's, it hasn't changed anything, but yes. Yeah. Oh, and sorry, my bad. In Tilemap Renderer, you also need to set the mode from chunk to individual. So what that means is the tile map will now recognize that each individual tile is kind of its own thing. So if you give one tile it's a separate collider, it's not going to like throw a hissy fit at you. Yeah. So hopefully that makes sense. Hopefully, yes. And yeah, so that is like the basics of, you know, like these colliders and like how to make sure the player can stand on these platforms. So now when I press play, oh, my bad, something that I forgot is your composite collider will automatically add a rigid body 2D to the game. The default settings will set it for the body type to be dynamic. What that means though is that whatever object, so in this case this huge mass of arrows, will follow whatever Unity's version of gravity that it has. So it will fall once you start the game, like you just saw me do in the game view. So what you want to do is you want to set it to the body type to static, which just means that it's not going to move unless like you force it to move through code or something like that. And so now when I press play, now like it'll say where it is and my player can like jump onto it and like things like that. So cool stuff. And yeah, that is honestly the basics of tile mapping. And that is kind of the end of like anything that I have to teach you guys. So I guess right now, just like as fun little practice for you guys can go to the asset store, which it should be like the tab next to your scene view. And if it'll load, please load. Yes. You can search for like Tilemaps. God, I forgot how slow this is. You can search for Tilemaps. You don't worry about that. Yeah, like you can, no, that costs money, but you can essentially like look through for some tile map that you want to use. You know, like something like, oh no, that's $20, never mind.
Isn't there a way to like search by free?
There is a way to search by free. Filter. Oh yeah, you can click on filter and then under pricing, set it to like 0 to 0. Or like free assets, and then the blue button at the bottom. And it should show you all the free tile maps. So, you know, like in these things, like if I just look at this really quickly, it'll have like a bunch of tile maps for you to use. And you just click download. And then import. And what that does is it just gives you like a bunch of tile map assets. Whenever it loads. Yes, it should create a new folder and you should have like all of these like tiles. These are all tile maps. If I go back to my scene. So how you want to split these is they should already be split, I believe. Yes. So if you look at these, they're already all split into the separate, oh my God, into the separate like shapes that it is. Like there's like all these trees and like volcanoes and like all that kind of stuff. So you can just create a new tile palette. Download, doesn't really matter. And then you can just drag and drop this in. Like the entire thing. Don't go through and drag and drop every single individual shape. That will take you a very long time. Yeah, it'll essentially import all these assets. And what I want you guys to do is just to like have fun with it. I want to see you guys like create like a little level, you know, like something that your player can move around in. You can, when you press play, you can move your player around with the WASD keys. You can jump with the W key, that sort of thing. So yeah, just like create a little level that your, you know, like player can like run through. I don't know why it's like this. Oh my God.
Probably the pixels aren't set to the right thing.
Yeah, you're probably correct.
While she's trying to fix this, I just want to say tilemaps are super, super useful, like no matter what kind of 2D game you're making. Like Unity has, well, first of all, don't think that it's just for something like a platformer like what Athena has here. There are plenty of like top-down games as well that you really want to use a tilemap for. Anything where there's like a repeated like group of sprites that you're using to create something in a grid pattern, definitely use a tilemap for that. It's gonna take you like so long to do it by hand if you're not doing a tilemap, and this is a really great tool that Unity has built in order to do that. And there's also different types of grids that you can use. For instance, I've used the hexagon grid before to create one of those, like, you know, some of those games where it's like a hex grid basically, and it's literally the exact same functionality. So tilemaps are super useful, especially.
I don't know. Oh, sorry.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna like keep spilling. What's your question?
I don't know how I got this far without knowing how to do this, but okay. So like, how do you like move the display around, because I can't zoom in or zoom out on this thing?
Oh, middle mouse button.
I don't have.
And also if you want to like just like go to a different portion of your scene, what you can do is just click on the alt key and then click and drag.
Are you talking about moving in the scene, or are you talking about moving in the yeah, what she's moving in right now?
It works the same. It works the same.
It's the same.
Yeah.
You can also, I believe, right
So
click.
Emily, you can stop recording now.
Drag. You mentioned you don't have a mouse, Joyce. Like, I don't know what your situation is or how easy it would be for you to get a mouse, but I would say if you plan on working in Unity a lot, getting a mouse is like a good investment. Like, it's much easier to navigate in Unity when you have a mouse.
Okay, got it.
Yeah. The rest of this time, yeah, I just want you guys